Rain lashed against the windows of the naval base as a line of recruits stood at attention, boots gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. The air smelled of salt, oil, and discipline. Inside the hangar, conversations were hushed. Everyone was waiting for the admiral to arrive. Among the uniformed men stood a tall, broad-shouldered man in his 40s, wearing a simple veteran's jacket instead of a uniform. His eyes were sharp but quiet, the kind that had seen too much and said too little. That man was Michael, Ghost 5, Harper, though no one here knew that name anymore. To most, he was just a single dad from Ohio, a mechanic who fixed motorcycles and volunteered at his son's school. But years ago, he'd been the most skilled covert pilot in the Navy, until the day everything went wrong. Today, Michael had only come because his son, Jacob, was being honored for winning a national engineering competition. The Navy had sponsored it, and the ceremony was being held on base. Jacob had begged him to come. "Please, Dad, the Admiral himself is handing out the award." So here he was, standing awkwardly among crisp uniforms, feeling like a ghost from another life. When Admiral Robert Stanton finally entered the hangar, the room snapped to attention. His uniform gleamed with medals, his posture rigid, and his silver hair barely moved in the wind. He was a legend, but also a man Michael remembered for very different reasons. Stanton's eyes swept the room, but when they landed on Michael, they froze for just a fraction of a second. The Admiral blinked, the corner of his mouth tightening as if he'd seen a specter. Jacob's name was called, and Michael clapped as his son proudly walked across the floor, receiving the trophy. Cameras flashed. The Admiral congratulated him warmly, but his gaze kept flicking toward Michael. When the ceremony ended, Stanton approached. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low and authoritative. "You're Jacob's father, correct?" "Yes, sir," Michael said, shaking his hand. The Admiral's grip was firm, then suddenly loosened, as if he'd felt something familiar. "You look oddly familiar," Stanton murmured. "Were you ever in the service?" Michael hesitated. "Yes, sir, a long time ago." "What was your call sign?" Michael looked him in the eye, and for the first time in years, said the name he'd buried deep inside. "Ghost 5. The Admiral's face went white. The blood drained from his cheeks, his jaw slackened. Around them, the crowd noise seemed to vanish. "Ghost 5, Stanton whispered. "That's not possible. You're dead." Michael smiled faintly, almost bitterly. "Not quite." The Admiral's eyes darted around nervously. "Come with me," he said, his voice low but urgent. Now, they walked quickly through the hangar, down a corridor, and into a private conference room. The door shut behind them with a metallic click. "Where the hell have you been all these years?" Stanton demanded, his composed tone cracking. "You vanished after Operation Silent Storm. The report said your jet went down in the Baltic Sea. We searched for weeks. There was nothing but wreckage." "There was wreckage," Michael said evenly. "But I wasn't in it." The Admiral's brow furrowed. "Explain." Michael exhaled, leaning against the table. "That mission, it wasn't what the files say. You sent my team to retrieve stolen nuclear data from a rogue unit. But the intel was bad. We were ambushed. My co-pilot, Harris, was hit. We ejected over enemy territory." Stanton's eyes darkened. "That data was classified at the highest level." "Yeah," Michael said, his tone sharp. "And it got a lot of good men killed because someone on the inside sold us out." The Admiral's silence was telling. "I survived," Michael continued. "Barely. Spent 6 months hiding behind enemy lines, moving at night, trying to get home. By the time I made it back, my name was erased from every record. My pension, my service record, gone. When I tried to reach out, I was told I was a ghost. So I stayed one." For a long moment, neither man spoke. The only sound was the storm beating against the windows. Finally, Stanton said quietly, "We thought you died saving your team." "I did save them," Michael replied. "Or tried to. But only one made it out, and he never spoke again." The Admiral's expression shifted, part guilt, part disbelief. "Harris," he said softly. "He was in the hospital for months after. Never said a word about what happened. Because he knew," Michael said. "He knew someone high up sold us out." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You're implying." "I'm not implying anything," Michael interrupted. "I came here for my son. But you asked my call sign, and now we're here. So maybe it's time someone finally tells me the truth." The Admiral turned away, pacing slowly. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for a folder on the desk. He slid it toward Michael. Inside were declassified mission reports. Silent Storm, Ghost Squadron, 2009. Michael's eyes scanned the pages. Dozens of redacted lines. But one detail stood out. The mission's coordinates didn't match what his team had been given. "You sent us to the wrong grid," Michael said coldly. "It wasn't me," Stanton replied. "Orders came from above, from Defense Command." Michael closed the file slowly. "That's not good enough." Before Stanton could respond, the door opened, and a tall man in a black suit stepped in. His face was stern, his ID tag marked, Defense Intelligence. "Admiral," he said curtly, "you weren't authorized to access that file." Then his gaze fell on Michael. "And you, who the hell are you?" Stanton stood between them. "This man has every right to know the truth. He's Ghost 5. The agent froze. Then his hand instinctively went to his earpiece. "That's impossible. Seems to be a pattern today," Michael said. The agent hesitated, then lowered his voice. "If this is true, then he's in danger. Everyone from that mission was marked for termination after the leak. The traitor was never caught, and if Ghost 5 is alive..." Michael stiffened. "They'll come for me." The Admiral nodded grimly. "And your son." Within hours, Michael and Jacob were moved to a secure facility on the outskirts of the base. The Admiral stayed close, orchestrating the operation personally. But as the night deepened, the sense of danger grew. In the small, dimly lit safe house, Jacob sat nervously beside his father. "Dad," he whispered, "what's going on? Who are you really?" Michael looked at him, his heart heavy. "I used to fly jets for the Navy. I did things I'm not proud of. Things you shouldn't have to know about." Jacob's eyes glistened. "You saved people, didn't you?" Michael smiled faintly. "I tried to." Suddenly, the power cut out. The room plunged into darkness. "Stay behind me," Michael said, grabbing a flashlight from the table. He moved silently toward the door, instincts from another life kicking in. Through the darkness, a red laser dot flickered on the wall. "Down," he barked, pulling Jacob to the floor just as a silenced shot cracked through the window. The Admiral's security team returned fire. Chaos erupted. Shadows moved outside. Trained killers, fast and quiet. Michael reached under his jacket, pulling out a sidearm he hadn't touched in years. "Ghost 5, someone hissed from the darkness outside. "You should have stayed dead." "Been hearing that all day," Michael muttered and fired. The firefight was brutal and swift. Michael moved like he'd never left the field, precise, silent, efficient. When it was over, 3 attackers lay still in the rain. The rest fled into the night. Breathing hard, Michael turned to find Jacob trembling but safe. The Admiral emerged from the side room, wounded in the arm. "They knew we were here," he said grimly. "Someone inside the agency leaked it again." Michael helped him to a chair. "Then it's not over." Over the next few days, an investigation unraveled a shocking truth. The leak had come from within the Defense Command. The same man who'd ordered Operation Silent Storm had been selling military intel for years. With Ghost 5's reappearance, he'd panicked and tried to erase the last witness. Michael testified in a closed military tribunal, his evidence finally exposing the traitor. The Admiral stood beside him the whole time. When it was over, Stanton approached him quietly. "You've done your country one last service, Ghost." Michael smiled tiredly. "No, Admiral. I just wanted my life back." The Admiral extended his hand. "And you'll have it. The Navy will reinstate your record and honors. You deserve that much." Michael hesitated, then shook his hand. "Keep it. I've got what I need." He glanced at Jacob, who was watching proudly from across the room. "He's my mission now." Weeks later, life slowly returned to normal. The story of the ambush was classified, but whispers spread through the ranks about a ghost who came back from the dead. One evening, as Michael and Jacob worked on an old motorcycle in their garage, the boy looked up and said, "Dad, when I grow up, I want a call sign too." Michael chuckled softly. "You'll earn one someday, kid. And when you do, make it mean something." Jacob grinned. "What did yours mean?" Michael paused, then smiled faintly. "It meant I was always there, even when no one could see me." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. For the first time in years, Michael Harper, Ghost 5, felt at peace. The ghosts of his past had finally been laid to rest. And somewhere deep inside, the soldier in him whispered a quiet goodbye to the life he once knew, before turning to embrace the one that truly mattered.